Call the meeting to order.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Board of Supervisors come out of closed session and reconvene in open session.
Motion, is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Supervisor Fisher.
Mr. Chairman, I move that to the best of each board of members' knowledge that only acquisition and disposition of real property for a public purpose pursuant to Section 2.2-3711A3 of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended, specifically discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for a public purpose, and of the disposition or publicly held real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the board, and consultation with legal counsel and briefing by staff pursuant to Section 2.2-3711A3 of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended, specifically consultation with legal counsel and briefing by staff pertaining to probable litigation that has been specifically threatened against the county related to a land use matter where such consultation or briefing in an open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the board, and the matter requires the provision of legal advice by such counsel, and consultation with legal counsel and briefing by staff pertaining to a legal claim against the county, Leuenberger versus Spicer et al., currently pending in the United States District Court for the Western District of Virginia, where such consultation or briefing in an open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the board, and the matter requires the provision of legal advice by such counsel where discussed. Heard the motion, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
And individually, Supervisor Slaughter,
Aye.
Supervisor Wells.
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher.
Aye.
Supervisor Hess.
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn. Aye. Chairman votes aye. Motion carries. We'll go into our regular session. Supervisor Hess, would you mind leading us in invocation?
Please bow your heads. Almighty God, we come to you at this moment to give thanks to you for your many blessings and to ask for your guidance as we look ahead to the promise that the future holds for us individually and for our county. We know that you are the creator and sustainer of life, and on this evening when we see the signs of new life of spring, we're reminded of the beauty and majesty of your creation. Heavenly Father, you have blessed us with the many freedoms we enjoy in this country, including the freedom to assemble here tonight and express our opinions. These freedoms granted in our Constitution have not come without sacrifice, and we thank you for giving courage and a heart of service to those brave men and women of our armed forces who have defended those freedoms throughout the history of this great nation. Father God, tonight as we hear the views of many citizens on the county budget, help us to focus not on the differences of opinion that may separate us, but on the common goals that we share of a bright future for Frederick County. Help us see the similarities that bind us together. May your love, joy, peace, and patience be at the heart of our relationships with one another, along with your kindness and goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Father, we ask your blessing on those gathered here tonight. Guide us all and give us the strength and desire to continue to serve you, our county, our commonwealth, and our great nation. And we ask that our words and our actions this evening might be pleasing in your sight. In your heavenly name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Vice Chairman Fisher, you lead us in the pledge, please.
Please stand and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adoption of the agenda. Are there any additions?
No, sir.
Entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Motion is second.
Second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Adopt the agenda. Consent agenda. Tentative items recommended for consent are tabs B, E, and F. It's a proclamation of National Telecommunications Week in Frederick County for April 10 through 16, 2016. Parks and Recreation Commission reports, tab E, and the Human Resources Committee report, tab F. How would the board like to handle these?
Move for adoption of the consent agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to adopt consent?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Consent agenda is adopted. This is a portion of the meeting for anyone to address the board on any issue that we will not be discussing later as an agenda item, as a public hearing item. Would anyone like to bring anything forward?
Sign.
Seeing none, Board of Supervisors comments. Seeing none, we'll move forward. Minutes of the budget work session, February 29th, 2016. How would you like to handle these?
Move approval as printed.
Motion to approve as submitted. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Number 2, the regular meeting of March 9th, 2016.
Move for approval as submitted, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Item number 2 under county officials is committee appointments. Have to wait for me to catch up. Okay, fine. Manchester Regional Airport Authority. It's an application of Robert Bear to consider.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move for appointment of Robert Barrett to the Winchester Regional Airport Authority.
I have a motion to approve Mr. Bear. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, no. Mr. Bear is appointed to the Winchester Regional Airport Authority. Northwestern Community Services Board, you have an application from Sandra W. Dunkley, or Dunkel? How would the board like to handle that?
Mr. Chairman, I remove for approval of Sandra Dunkel to the Northwestern Community Services Board.
Motion to appoint, is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second, is there any discussion? All those in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Sandra W. Dunkel is appointed to the Northwestern Community Services Board. Historic Resources Advisory Board, I would like to defer to another meeting. We have on the Sanitation Authority, Stan Crockett is up for reappointment, as is Martha W. Dilge. How would the board like to handle?
Mr. Chairman, I have spoken with both individuals, and they are willing to serve, be reappointed, so I'd move for the reappointment of Mr. Stan Crockett and Ms. Martha Dilge to the Sanitation Authority.
I have a motion, is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second, any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Stan Crockett and Martha W. Dilge are reappointed to the Sanitation Authority. Brings us to a request from the Commissioner of Revenue for refund under tab D.
Yes, sir, you have a request from the Commissioner of the Revenue to refund Atlantic Construction Company LLC in the amount of $13,574.04 for business equipment taxes in 2014, resulting because the company moved their equipment to Clark County in 2013. And the Commissioner has verified that they'll be taxed in the new locality. The office operation didn't move until January 1, so there's no license refund to be made. So you need to approve that supplemental appropriation.
So how would the board like to handle the request?
Make a motion for approval.
Approval of the refund as well as the supplemental appropriation?
Yes, sir.
Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chair.
Second, any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, how much was that? What was that amount again?
$13,574.04.
Thank you.
Further discussion? All those in favor, I'm sorry, roll call. Supervisor Dunn?
Aye.
Supervisor Hess?
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher?
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Wells?
Aye.
Supervisor Slaughter?
Aye.
Chairman votes aye, and the motion carries. Brings us to the Finance Committee report. Supervisor Slaughter?
Yes, sir. The Finance Committee meeting was held on the first floor conference room at 107 North Kent Street on Wednesday, March the 16th at 8 a.m. There was an Audit Committee meeting immediately following, and all members were present. The first item on the agenda was that the sheriff requested a general fund supplemental appropriation in the amount of $30,000. This amount represents the Abbott grant funds and will be used to purchase 2 vehicles. No local funds were required. The committee recommends approval, and I would so move.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Any discussion? Supervisor Dunn?
Aye.
Supervisor Hess?
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher?
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Wells?
Aye.
Supervisor Slaughter?
Aye.
Chairman votes aye, and the motion carries.
The second item on the agenda was the sheriff request a general fund supplemental appropriation in the amount of $11,134.30. This amount represents 2 insurance reimbursements for auto claims, no local funds required. The committee recommends approval, and I would so move.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Any discussion? Supervisor Slaughter?
Aye.
Supervisor Wells?
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher?
Aye.
Supervisor Hess?
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn?
Aye.
Chairman votes aye, and the motion carries.
Item number 4 on the agenda was the planning director requests a general fund and a development projects fund supplemental appropriation in the amount of $4,390. This amount represents funds for the remainder of the cost associated with acceptance of Security Drive into the state secondary system. Local funds are required. The committee recommends approval, and I would so move.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Discussion? Supervisor Dunn?
Aye.
Supervisor Hess?
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher?
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Wells?
Aye.
Supervisor Slaughter?
Aye.
Chairman votes aye, and the motion carries.
And the last item on the agenda was the county administrator provides a draft grant application and acceptance policy for review and recommendations. The committee recommended approval, and I would so move.
Motion to approve the policy, is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second, any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
And
Thank
that
you, ma'am.
concludes.
Brings us to a public hearing with 12-month outdoor festival permit request of Trumpet Vine Farm. Pursuant to the Frederick County Code, Chapter 86 Festivals, Section 86-3, permit required, application issuance or denial. Someone representing the application? Yes, sir, if you'd come forward, please.
Yes, sir.
We could have your name, please, Magistrate
DeMarchi
District.
Spears, and the owner of Trumpet Vine Farm.
And anything you would like to add?
No,
Any questions?
be glad to answer any.
Anyone?
I have a couple of questions
I'm
now.
sorry, Mr. Law.
Mr. Spears, I have not received any complaints from any events you have held. Have you been notified by the planning department of any complaints about the events that you have held?
No, not up to this point.
Thank you.
Questions? Anyone else? Thank you, sir. This is a public hearing. Would anyone like to comment concerning this application? Thank you, sir. If we could have your name, Magisterial District,
My name
please.
is Fall. I live in Back Creek. I'm here in opposition to the otherwise rezoning of the Trumpet Vine property. I really don't know why I'm here. It's my opinion that the fix is in and the fix is good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to comment concerning this outdoor festival permit? Anyone? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. Would you like to comment concerning
What does that mean?
the one statement? It's not necessary. It's your option. Would you like to comment concerning? Thank you, sir. All right. You have the request. Would you like to handle this one? Supervisor Lofton?
Mr. Chairman, as I've said before, I haven't received any complaints about this festival taking place, the numerous occasions that he's had there, and I would hope people would have called me or called the planning department if they did have a complaint. So being that as it is, I would recommend approval of a 12-month outdoor festival permit request of Trumpet Vine Farm.
Motion to approve the festival permit. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
we get these proposals, and the gentleman previously had said that he was opposed to it, but he didn't state why. This is not a fix that's already in. We as supervisors listen to comments both pro and con, and so I find it unfortunate the person would make a comment that the fix is in without stating the reasons of why or what his reasons for that opposition. In the future, if you oppose something or support something, let us know, and then we can comment on it. But it's very difficult to comment when a person makes a comment without further evidence. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Other comments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to mention, the same thing I mentioned last year when we had this permit, that I think this is really something that maybe should be more properly considered under as a conditional use permit, but there is some inconsistency in our current code regarding that. I've had discussions with the county attorney, and I know there is some plans in the future to look at the language, both regarding CUPs and 12-month festival permits. I have no objection to the application, though, but just wanted to state that.
Supervisor Lofton?
Mr. Chairman, if I may respond to that, staff has been in contact with the owner of the event venue here, and we're working towards that conditional use permit, which we think will give more clarity and more security to both the applicant and the surrounding neighbors. But at this point, we couldn't make that happen in the time frame that we were looking at.
Other discussion? Anyone? You ready to vote? All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Festival permit is approved. Number 2 is public hearing on an ordinance to amend Section 155-51, tax imposed, of Article 14, transient occupancy tax of Chapter 155, taxation of the Code of Frederick County, Virginia, to increase the transient occupancy tax from 2% to 2.5%, effective July 1, 2016. Is this from yours, Ms. Gardner?
Yes, sir. As you may recall, when we talked about this previously, localities in Virginia or counties in Virginia may automatically impose a 2% transient occupancy tax, which is the tax you pay when you stay in a hotel room, without General Assembly extra permission, which we have been doing. In order to increase that tax beyond 2%, and you can go up as high as 5%, it requires that the General Assembly add the county to the list of localities in Virginia that are allowed to do that. We asked our General Assembly members last session to put that legislation in, and it has passed. So this ordinance is to consider the local amendment to change our transient occupancy tax from 2% to 2.5%. The increase is estimated to be, I believe it's $132,500, and that increase would be totally allocated to tourism, to the joint tourism operation with the city, as the code requires it to be dedicated to tourism-related activities.
Questions, Ms. Gardner? Anyone? All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to comment concerning changing this tax rate? Anyone at all? Anyone? All right, then we'll close the public hearing portion. How would the board like to handle this?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the change in the transient occupancy tax.
A motion to approve the change in rate. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second, discussion. Anyone? Anyone? All right. Supervisor Dunn. Aye. Supervisor Hess.
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher.
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Supervisor Wells.
Aye.
Supervisor Slaughter.
Aye.
Aye. Chairman votes aye, and the motion carries. Brings us to a public hearing on the fiscal year 2016-2017 budget. We apologize for those folks who are standing. We very much appreciate you taking time out to be here. If folks could, maybe on the benches, could get a little cozier with your neighbor, maybe we could make seats for a few more folks. But we really appreciate your time and coming out and sharing this time with us. Ms. Garten.
Thank you, Mr.
There are
Chair.
a few seats becoming available here. Please take advantage of them. Ms. Garten.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This is the time of the year when I get to present the county administrator's proposed budget, both to you all formally and to the public. And I just want to say, when people ask me about proposed budgets, I always tell people, come out and let the board know what your opinion is, and wow, this is awesome. So Jay's going to be my page turner, and you have a copy of the presentation at your seats, so you can make notes if you wish. And for the benefit of the public, this PowerPoint presentation will be posted on the county's website tomorrow. The way I look at a budget may be a little bit different from the way someone else might develop a budget, but the first thing I try to do is wrap my head around what's important sort of philosophically in the development of that particular budget and that particular community in this particular year. In Frederick County, in the fall, the board chair gives a letter to the county administrator providing guidance for items that the board thinks is important for the upcoming budget. In this case, those priorities are listed on this slide and also the next one. And I'm not going to read a lot of the stuff that's on the slides because I may put all these people to sleep because it's a fairly long list and a fair number of slides. But I think it would be fair to say that they asked me to concentrate on public safety issues. They asked that I make an attempt to keep property tax rates as low as possible, preferably not increasing them at all. We have historically used fund balance to help balance our budget, and that was an option that the board thought was worth considering. And they wanted allocations between the county and the school system to be based on the historical way that we've done it here, which is 57% schools and 43% county. They wanted me to look at capital items, to continue to consider the minimization of government wherever we could, and to make public safety and education priorities. So past the objectives from the board, I thought about, from my point of view, from the organizational point of view, and what I know about operations, what are my objectives that I would lay underneath the board's objectives. So I added a whole lot more. Those include providing funding for employee compensation to continue implementing recommendations from the pay study that we did on our side of the house, to provide that reasonable funding for schools based on that revenue sharing methodology, identify alternative revenue sources where possible, which was what the transient occupancy tax increase was part of that effort, and to preserve fund balance at appropriate levels per board policies and best practices. Additionally, I was looking at trying to provide a sufficient contingency fund, making sure departments had reasonable amounts of money, trying to reduce overtime, looking at requests for new staff in critical areas, following best budgeting practices, reducing operating costs where possible, and making sure that budget recommendations were realistic and fundable. I looked at capital funding. I wanted to maintain the service levels that the county is already providing to the citizens unless directed otherwise. we looked really carefully at any funding request that was something new. Can we really afford to do this right now? And of course, public safety needs is a big issue for us. We looked at technology. We have funding that's provided to nonprofits in the community, which tends to multiply itself because there's so many volunteer efforts associated with nonprofits. And to ensure that critical county and school capital needs are met. Those were all sort of funding priorities. And then I also wanted to accomplish some things with regard to the process. I set up a budget committee that consisted of staff that helped me work through the whole budget process. I met individually with requesters and departments. We gave those department heads and constitutional officers input into the process. I tried to create an open, transparent, and collaborative process. And I've been trying to, over the last couple of months, provide detailed information for the board so that you can make an informed decision about your tax rates and the budget that you want to adopt. And then finally, communicate proposed budget information clearly and frequently with board members and various and other interest groups. So we start off the budget with how much money do we project that we will collect next year in the general fund, which is the fund that's where most of the focus is. And in this case, for next year, that projection was about $156 million. So then we add up what everybody's asking for, and that was $184 million, and that means that we don't have $28 million that people want, or that departments want, or that needs have been expressed. Since a penny on the real estate tax rate generates $800,000, if I were to come in and recommend a budget that funded what everybody said they needed, I would be recommending an increase in the real estate tax rate of 36 cents. And since our real estate tax rate is 56 cents, I figure tomorrow I probably wouldn't have a job if I did that. So I'm not recommending that. The initial request from the schools is calculated on the slide in front of you. The initial operating request was 159, almost 160 million. When you subtract last year's budget, the increase in operating requested was 11.7 million. They had revenue that they expected from federal, state, and other sources of about 1.7 million. So if you subtract that, then the increase in local operating funding that they were requesting from the county was a little over 10 million. They requested 5 million for capital, and they requested 1.3 million for increase in debt service, of course, over which they have no control. So the total amount requested from schools was 16.5 million. So if I increased the general fund or recommended a tax rate increase to fund just that and nothing else, it would be 21 cents, which is also, of course, not palatable. So I just give you those figures as kind of perspective. So again, back to the initial revenue projections. The revenues that come into the general fund are comprised of some local tax and fee collections that you can spend on anything you want. And then there are other revenues that come into the general fund that can't be used for just any old thing. So we have to separate out those revenues that can't be shared with the schools in order to calculate what 57% is that they may have and what 43% is that we may have. So the first thing we did at the beginning is take the revenue projections for next year, which could be shared with the schools. That number was $7,858,647. Now, the really big elephant in the room, it might even be a dinosaur, it's so big, is that in last year's budget, we used $7.3 million from the fund balance to balance the operating budget. While the board may certainly decide to use fund balance to balance your budget, you won't get that recommendation out of me because it's really not best practice. If you're going to use fund balance, it really should be used for one-time expenditures and not ongoing expenditures. So using fund balance to balance the budget and cover ongoing operating expenses is not something that I'll recommend. So when I took the $7.8 million that was available to share, and we subtract off the fact that we can no longer use fund balance to balance our budget, we had left $558,647 to share with the schools. So absent any increase in any tax rate, using only the projected natural increase in our revenues of 7.8 and offsetting not using fund balance, the schools would get an increase of $318,429, which also common sense will tell you is not going to do much of anything in running a school division as large as ours in terms of an increase over last year's number. So at that point, I said, okay, I'm going to have to propose an increase in the tax rate, which nobody likes to hear, but that's sort of how I got to that point. So then I had to say, of those $28 million worth of requests, what's the most critical things? What are the most critical things that we have to look at, that I need to look at in comparison to the whole $28 million? Clearly, the schools have to open their new middle school, and they have estimated to you a cost of $1.2 million in their operating budget for costs associated with that. And that's kind of a given. We have a critical personnel shortage in fire and rescue. In order to provide 24/7 coverage and cut down on the amount of overtime and demands on our staff that we have to address. I wanted to be able to provide some funding for compensation increases on both the county and the school side of the house because I think that's important in attracting and retaining qualified employees. And of course, the school and the county both have increases in debt service, which are not optional. So those are, if the $7.3 million was the big dinosaur, I guess these are the 4 big elephants in the room. Those are things that were probably the most critical. Next, there are increases in cost over which the county has no control. For example, the VRS rates are given to us by the state. We don't have any control over that at all. We had requests for additional deputies in the sheriff's office, which I think is a critical need. And then we had personnel areas in other places in the county other than public safety that I've identified as really important. One is the county attorney's office. The Commonwealth's attorney's office position has already been approved by the comp board. We had a position requested in social services. And in HR, we really need someone to work on a training program. Both sides of the house have significant capital needs that have been often delayed, that need to be considered, and we need to keep our existing buildings in good repair. So what I ended up concluding after looking at a variety of options was to propose an 8-cent increase in the real estate tax rate from 56 cents to 64 cents. And then the budget also includes the funding that's derived from the increase in transient occupancy tax from 2% to 2.5%. All other fees are budgeted at the same level as the current year. Tourism, well, all other fees in the general fund. Tourism is a joint operation with the city of Winchester that we fund and they fund. So all the new revenues, both from the natural increases and from the increase in the real estate tax rate, would be split 57%, 43% with the schools, which has been our historical approach to providing funding for the schools. The board took an action, I believe, in a February meeting to appropriate money from the fund balance, $7 million worth, $4 million to the schools, and $3 million to the county for capital purposes. So in the original budget request, the schools had asked for $5.1 million in capital funding, and on the county side of the house, when you went through everywhere and added everything up, we had $5.2 million. So we removed all those capital items from the budget first and are just using the funding that you all appropriated last month from the fund balance. And again, the fund balance to me, the best way I can explain it is if you think about the fund balance as your savings account, you don't go to your savings account to pay your cable bill every month, right? You might go to buy TV, but you don't go to the savings account for recurring costs. So the fact that you appropriated money for capital is an appropriate use of fund balance. So when we talk about the budget, most of the time, most of the conversation focuses on the general fund. The county's budget is comprised of a lot of different funds. Some of them are school-related and some of them are non-school related. These are all the funds that are non-school related. And the focus of most of my presentation is on the general fund because in many cases, it's the transfer from the general fund that funds the others anyway. So the total of all of the non-school funds, the proposed budget is $197,512,443. Some of the increases in some of these funds in revenues come from other localities because they're regional operations. So all of those increases are not just Frederick County money. The school-related funds, similarly, the focus tends to be on the school operating budget because that's the big one and that's where all the activity happens. But they also have a number of funds, and this is a summary that was also included in the ad that was in the paper that shows all of those various school-related funds, what the adopted budget was last year and what the proposed budget is for this year. If you put those two summaries together and add those two totals, non-school and school, the total proposed budget, everything together, is $388,293,879. However, you have to remember that from our general fund, transfers are made into other funds. So we've counted that revenue when it came into the general fund, but it's also counted as a revenue source in that other fund when it's transferred in. So in order to not double count that money, you have to subtract that back out. So that's what the red line is. That's subtracting out the transfers which would otherwise be counted twice. And so then the net total of all our funds is $291,046,087. And the increase from last year is $15,161,623 in all funds put together. This pie chart shows you, and again, the number that's covered in the pie chart is the net. It's got the transfers taken out, so it's not double counted. Shows $190,206,091, or 65% of all of those funds are school-related budgets. Public safety is $49,514,650, or 17%, and everything else is $51,325,346, or 18%. Everything else includes administration, public works, parks and rec, social services, community and economic development, landfill, airport, Shawnee Land, Lake Holiday. Lots of stuff in that category. In terms of the county's general fund, this shows you the revenues that we would be collecting in the general fund if the tax rates that I have proposed are adopted. There's an increase of $7,892,939 in total in the general fund. And you'll notice the big increase is in general property taxes. Part of that is the natural increase, and part of that is the increase in the tax rate. But then at the bottom, we subtract off the 7.3 that I'm not recommending that you use fund balance money to balance the budget. One way to think about it is that if I were trying to replace the $7.3 million hole with real estate tax, it would be 9 cents, because a penny is $800,000 on the tax rate, so 9 pennies would be $7.2 million. So it would be almost equal. Slide 25 shows you a pie chart of the proposed general fund revenues, and all it does is give you a picture of the numbers that you just saw with a smaller number of categories. Property taxes General property taxes and other local taxes add together to equal 90% of the general fund revenue. General property taxes being 69% and other local taxes 21.28. So that's where most of your revenue comes from in the general fund. So I wanted to kind of go through those numbers in a couple of different ways because they make sense to people in different ways. The total estimated increase in the general fund revenues altogether, without a tax rate increase, are 8.8 million. That's the first number. The proposed increase in the real estate tax rate generates 6.4 million. So that gives you 15.2 million. If you subtract off the 7.3 that I'm not recommending that you use from fund balance, then the increase is $7.9 million. And that's the figure that you would have seen in the ad that would be the increase. And generally speaking, again, I would not recommend to you that you use fund balance for operating cost. If we had put a major capital item in the budget, then I might have suggested using fund balance to fund that capital item, but not for operating cost. And we, as I said, we took all the capital out of the budget, so the rest of it is ongoing operating costs. Another way to look at it, and this is how I was looking at it earlier, is here's the revenue we think we're going to have. We got to subtract off the 7.3, so the natural increase is 1.5. The tax generated by the real estate tax increase is 6.4, and you come back down to that same number again, that same increase. Just a different way to look at it. Of that $8,792,939, approximately 7.8 of it is revenue that can be shared with the schools. As I said earlier, some revenues can't be used for a purpose other than their designated purpose. So of the total revenues, without the tax rate increase, 7.8 million is available to share with the schools. You subtract that, and that means 934 is left on the county side of the house that can't be used for something else. So if you take the 7.8 million, you subtract off the 7.3 that we're not using from fund balance, you add back the 6.4 from real estate tax, then you get 6.9 million, almost 7, available to share with schools. And on the next page, that same figure, the school's 57% increase, and the local transfer would be $3.9 million, almost $4 million. The county portion of that, 43%, is $2.9 million, and you add back in the figure that can't be shared with the schools, so the county's net increase is $3.9 million. It's almost the same. I hope that makes sense. So the proposed budget would include an increase in local transfer to the schools in total of $3,966,428. If you remember a slide way back, the schools asked for, I don't know what slide it was, the schools asked for $16,516,479 in total. They asked for $10 million more in operating and 1.3 in debt service. So even though they asked for those two things put together, because we took the capital out, the total is 11.3. The funding we can provide in this budget is $4 million. So it's significantly short from the ask. So when you take off the debt service increase of 1.3, you get an operating increase of 2.6. The next page shows a breakdown between various categories as to where the general fund expenditures would go in the proposed budget. Over half of the general fund budget expenditures goes toward school operating and school debt. 56% of the general fund budget represent transfers into those two school funds. So how are the local revenues being spent? Where does the increase go? Again, the increase would fund a $4 million approximate transfer to the schools for debt and operating cost. There is a 3% reserve for raises on the county side of the house. And we are funding our increase in debt service on our side of the house. The school board makes the decision as to what to do with their $4 million. That's not something that you have to decide or that we are in the business of deciding. You have traditionally given the schools a lump sum appropriation, and then it's up to the school board to decide how to spend their total funding in their operating budget. On the county side of the house, the increase in local revenues would fund 10 additional firefighters with the associated equipment, 6 sheriff's deputies with equipment, 1 assistant county attorney, 1 HR specialist specifically for training programs because that's a need that I've identified in the organization, 1 new attorney in the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office. That's already been approved by the Comp Board, and we've actually already appropriated some money for this year to start that position now, and an Adult Protective Services Supervisor in Social Services. The budget also provides for increases in funding for the Health Department, Social Services, the Community Services Board, regionally funded operations such as the library, tourism, and the airport, the regional jail contribution increase, and a Comprehensive Services Act fund transfer increase, which takes care of children with special needs. We have increased insurance costs, increased refuse collection fee, and various and sundry increases throughout the department. And that list is not intended to be exhaustive. What's not funded in the proposed budget? Well, $7.4 million of what the schools asked for is not funded. 12 of the 18 deputies that the sheriff asked for are not funded. 13 of the 23 positions requested by Fire and Rescue are not funded. We did not recommend funding a planner or a program coordinator in Parks and Rec. As I said, we took out all the capital requests, both on the school side of the house and the county side of the house. We reduced overtime funding where we could in the general fund, and various other requests for increases throughout the budget that would be too numerous to mention. This table shows you a 7-year history of the general fund budget, beginning in fiscal year 2010 all the way through the proposed budget for 2017. The average annual increase for the adopted general fund budget is 3.7%. And the increases in our general fund include, or rather the total budget in our general fund includes the transfer to the schools, of course. This gives you in a bar graph form the adopted general fund budgets in sort of a picture that's a lot easier to see. The adopted general fund budget has increased since 2010-11 through the proposed budget by $37,095,242, or 29.5% over that period of time. The next table shows you the school operating fund revenues. The proposed fiscal year 17 in comparison to the adopted fiscal year 16 and the difference. You can see that the general fund transfer for operating costs is $2.6 million because the other $1.3 is in the debt fund. If you compare the numbers that we gave you a couple of months ago to these figures, they're a little bit different because the schools found out fairly recently that they are going to get more money from the state than they had originally projected. So they're actually getting an increase of $2,220,797,000 from sources other than local revenue in the operating budget. This is a graph of school operating fund revenues, and you can see that the transfer from the county represents 49% of their revenue sources. The state revenue is only 47% of their money for their operating fund. So we actually fund a greater proportion than the state does. Frederick County's composite index is 0.3889. And what the composite index means, in a really condensed form because it's very complicated, is that the state says that we have the ability to pay 38.89% of the expenses that are deemed to be related to the standards of quality. And Dr. Sovine can probably tell me I didn't say that right, but that's a really condensed version of what that number means. So theoretically, they should be providing 61.11% of the SOQ expenses, and we should be providing 38.89%. I don't believe there's any locality in the state of Virginia that doesn't spend more money in their school system than what that figure would represent. It's just not adequate because nobody stops at the SOQ standards. You always have other things that you want your school system to do. So we aren't unique in that area. These are just some facts about the Frederick County Public Schools. Their population is expected to increase by 25 students in fiscal year 17 for a total of 13,117 students. You've got a cost per student figure, and the proposed increase in the local transfer is 3.7%. Just like we gave you the historical general fund figures, this is from 2010 to the proposed budget. The school operating funds across that period of time, the average increase for the adopted school operating fund budget is 2.3%. And again, a bar chart shows you the history from 2011 to 2017. The school operating budget has increased across that period of time $29,202,785, or 23.6%. This chart shows you the change in the transfer from the general fund to the school operating budget. So this is our local school operating funding over that same period of time. There's an increase of 32% over that period of time. So you can see that what we contribute has increased at a greater amount than the total overall budget, which just is an example of the fact that the state's not really doing what the state should be doing. But again, we're not unique in wishing they would do more. The next slide shows you, and we got these figures from the schools, what the local funding is required to be in order to get the matching state funding. And for Frederick, for this proposed budget, that's $34 million, 34.6. We fund 74.7. So clearly, nobody funds that minimal level that the state requires. I mean, pretty much every locality in Virginia provides significantly more funding than that required level. For us, it's 116% above the local required funding. We rank 19th highest in the state in that regard out of 135. Last year, we were 20th highest in the state. So we do a pretty good job, relatively speaking, of funding the schools. So this chart summarizes the actual proposed increase in rates. As I said earlier, the only two that impact the general fund directly are the proposed increase in the real estate tax rate and the proposed increase in the transient occupancy tax, which you just approved the ordinance amendment. And that second one generates $132,850, which is totally going to go to support the tourism, the joint tourism office. All other taxes and fees in the general fund are proposed to remain the same. I looked at the personal property tax rate, but our rate is really, really high, so I didn't think that was an appropriate place to look. You all talked about increasing the tax on airplanes and rejected that idea, so this is what we're left with. The landfill is a regional landfill. We're the fiscal agent. There is a landfill oversight committee that sets their rates, and they are trying to progressively get their rates back to what they were before Everything tanked 5 or 6 years ago, so they have proposed an increase in their rates, which impacts us because in our budget, we pay some of those rates relative to our citizens. And the landfill is an enterprise fund, so essentially it should kind of operate like a business on its own and generate its own revenue. You don't want the general fund to have to subsidize it, which we don't. And the last few charts that we provide just for information, this chart shows you the current real estate tax rate in comparison to what I understand is the group of localities that Frederick County has decided are its comparative base. We were at the bottom in terms of the real estate tax rate. If you go to the next page, based on what we know is being proposed in those other localities, including our proposed rate, we would slide a little bit up and we would no longer be at the bottom, but we're still pretty low down. No, we're not low down. That didn't come out right. The next slide shows the median income of surrounding and similar localities. Frederick County's median income is $68,424. That figure comes from Jobs EQ via the American Community Survey in 2013, which is the most recent data available. I think we got that from Patrick, from Economic Development. The next slide was taken from the APA Cost Comparison Report from the state for fiscal year 14 actual expenditures. Frederick County spends $2,526 per capita, which is sort of in the middle. It's in the lower half. And that kind of concludes a really fast, really condensed summary of the budget. I do want to take a moment to thank the board members for being patient with me because I was new. You know, we were kind of trying to flex what you did before, what I wanted to do, and work our way through that. So you've been very patient with me, and I appreciate that. And I want to also publicly thank the budget committee that I put together, which was Chris Tierney, Jay Tibbs, Cheryl Schiffler, Jennifer Place from Finance, and Becky Mariner from HR, and myself. And we have been meeting, I don't even know how many times since January with various and sundry departments and agencies, and they've put in a lot of extra work, and I want to thank them. Also, Dave Sovine and Lisa Fry have been, wonderful and given us anything that we've asked them for, and all the department heads and constitutional officers have also been patient with me as we've worked through this new process. So the last thing I would say to you is sort of a big picture statement. I believe that one of the primary duties of a Board of Supervisors is communicating to your citizens your establishment of priorities for local funding. So by adopting your final budget document, which you will do on April the 13th, you are conveying to your constituency how you will use citizens' contributions to their local government to address the critical needs in our community and continued efforts and improvement on the part of local government, both the Board of Supervisors and the school board, to make Frederick County the absolutely best community for its citizens and a fiscally healthy and vibrant place to live, work, play, and raise a family. I respectfully submit this proposed budget to you all, and it is my hope and intent that it represents a reasonable springboard for your deliberations toward that end. This concludes the public presentation of the budget, and I'm going to sit down.
Thank you, ma'am. So folks, if you could bear with me, the board has historical rules of order for public hearings. This is a public hearing. It's been called by the Board of Supervisors pursuant to the requirements of the Code of Virginia to receive comments on the proposed budget and tax levies for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2017. Budget's prepared for information and physical planning purposes only, so that the Board of Supervisors may have the benefit of your comments. It's our desire to have an orderly hearing, and in an effort to achieve this, the following rules of order will prevail. All speakers must be recognized by the chairman. Each speaker should come to the podium, address their comments directly to the board. If you would state your name and your magisterial district, please. Each speaker should be as brief as possible and limit his or her remarks to no more than 3 minutes. No speakers will be allowed to speak more than once until all who wish to speak have had a chance to do so. Speakers are encouraged to be direct and to the point and as brief as possible. It's the purpose of this hearing to receive your comments about the proposed budget. And it's not the purpose of this hearing for the board to debate questions, engage in debate with speakers, nor to make comments themselves. This is not intended to be a debate, and comments to the audience are not appropriate. Unruly or rude behavior will not be tolerated. The board reserves the right to limit the length of the hearing, especially if no new information is being presented. So with that, we appreciate your coming out, taking time away from your life and your families to share your thoughts and comments with us. Would ask you to come forward as you would desire, and we'll look forward to receiving your comments. So,
The first one signed up is Mike Elwell from Northwestern Community Services Board.
Mr. Elwell.
Good evening. It's great to be number one. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, Supervisors, Administrator. My name is Michael Elwell. I am the Executive Director of Northwestern Community Services Board. It's my pleasure to at least give you an overview of what we do in case you forgot. But we've been serving the residents of Frederick County for the past 42 years, which is quite a long time. This past year, we have served 4,500 individuals with serious mental health issues, developmental disabilities, substance abuse issues. Of that 4,500, approximately 1,300 were Frederick County residents. We provide a whole array of services to every age population from cradle to grave. So it is a very comprehensive service array that we provide. Everything from mental health supports for adults and children that keep kids and adults out of expensive hospitalization. We provide psychiatry, nursing, 24/7 crisis response. We provide CIT training to your Frederick County deputies. Case management services to children and their families, to adults and their families. We have provide services to homeless. We have 35 beds for chronic homeless, and 85% of those beds are in Frederick County. We do prevention services in your school system, medication management. We have contracts with the Veterans Services. We provide services to veterans that are in Frederick County. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer those.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Kay Harris from the Laurel Center, and after her is City Police Chief Sanzenbacher regarding the Substance Abuse Coalition.
Who was your next?
Kay Harris from the Laurel Center.
Ms. Harris with us? Chief? Thank you, sir.
And after him is Lily Dunning from Bluemont Concert Series.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I want to thank you for receiving me tonight. I'm wearing two hats. One is the Chief of Police for the City of Winchester. The other is the Chairman of the Northern Shenandoah Substance Abuse Coalition. First of all, we want to thank you for your support this year. We believe we've been good stewards of your funding so far, and we're asking you for the same level of funding next year. We believe we're really moving forward. We're very excited. We believe by July 1st, we will have a drug treatment court up and operational. The funding we've requested from you will be to support treatment in that drug court. So we're very excited by that. The problem has not gone away. We had 30 deaths last calendar year, and we've already had 5 deaths so far this year. So the need is still there, and we appreciate your continued funding. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Lily Dunning is next, followed by Keith Johnson.
Good evening. I'm Lily Dunning. I'm Bluemont's Executive Director, and I'm here tonight on behalf of our Board of Directors and our Committee of Local Frederick County Volunteers. And first and foremost, wanted to thank the county for their many years of past support of Bluemont programs. From 1984 to 2010, the county funded Bluemont with a local allocation from the county budget as well as matching funds via the Virginia Commission for the Arts Local Government Matching Challenge Program. And we've been presenting programs here in Frederick County since 1979. And Bluemont's actually celebrating its 40th anniversary this year as an organization. Over that time, in partnership with the Frederick County as well as the City of Winchester, and our broad base of local families, individuals, foundations who support our programs. We've presented 312 summer concerts on the old Frederick County Courthouse lawn. That's probably our best-known program as it's visible to the public. We've also presented more than 269 healthcare outreach programs. That's a great program that ties directly with our summer concerts. It involves each of the performers we book doing a special 30-minute acoustic program in a local nursing home or healthcare facility for our seniors in the county. And it's really has a tremendous impact on the quality of life. And the performers sort of focus the programs around music that residents would remember. So it's a very special thing to get to see. Additionally, we've presented 510 educational programs in the county since 1979. Our Artist in Education program is our largest program. We feature a roster of 60 artists. They use the arts as a platform to present core subjects. So, for example, we work with Billy B., who does a really wonderful science-focused rock and roll song and dance program for the kids. Great for all different kinds of learners. We also work with Sparky and Rhonda Rucker, who present a history program focused on slavery or the civil rights movement, all with folk songs from different eras throughout history. We also work with live animal programs. So we have quite a large gamut of programs that we bring to the schools. In FY17, we've requested an $8,000 allocation that would represent $4,000 from the county and a $4,000 match from the Virginia Commission for the Arts. And our staff is happy to help county staff with preparing that application as we have in the past. And here to answer any questions if you have them about Bluemont programs in the community.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Keith Johnson, and then Paul Limoges.
Good evening, Chairman DeHaven and board members. My name is Keith Johnson. I reside with my family in the Red Bud District of Frederick County for over 23 years. I'm here tonight to support an 8-cent increase in our real estate tax in support of public safety, specifically the Fire and Rescue Department. I'm here tonight to support my family's safety by supporting the additional 23 positions that were originally requested in the FY17 budget. I have been a professional member of the fire service for over 35 years and am employed as a career firefighter in a neighboring locality. I maintained degrees in fire science, business administration, and a recent master's in homeland security. When my family moved to Frederick County, the area was growing at a modest but controlled pace. Building growth was limited. Additional business and industry were manageable, and traffic was not what it is today. While I support all of this growth, it is our job as local government to provide the residents and visitors to Frederick County with basic safety in our communities. My family's safety comes in the form of basic fire, emergency medical, and law enforcement protection, something that I am willing to pay more to obtain. While I know that each of you have tough decisions to make regarding this year's budget, and you'll be asked to support schools, libraries, employee benefits, and social service functions, none of these can exist without our basic public safety function. We only looked to a day ago in the terrorist attack in Brussels, Belgium, to remind us of the world we live in, or May 26, 2014, that fire that occurred at Waverly Farm in Clearbrook that burned Patricia Stiles and her 3-year-old granddaughter Reese, who recently spent 662 days in Johns Hopkins with 35% of burns all over her body. It was here that fire crews were called at 2 a.m. for a residential structure fire, and upon arrival, fire was blowing out of the second-floor window. It is our firefighters that we call to save the lives of our precious families. While Frederick County operates as a combined system, it is national standards that set the performance measures that should drive our protection by career and volunteer departments. National Fire Protection Association Standard 1720 sets this standard for the organization deployment of fire suppression, EMS, and special operations to the public. As a fourth-generation volunteer firefighter and now career, I state that the services that your departments provide, they do it well. What we simply don't have is enough of them. NFPA 1720 sets minimum staffing requirements to ensure a sufficient number of firefighters are available to operate safely and effectively. It provides call processing, turnout, response, and the minimum number of firefighters required to meet the tactical objectives that need to be obtained. In a suburban environment, 10 firefighters are required to respond within 10 minutes. OSHA sets standards that requires a dedicated and fully equipped rapid intervention crew to stand by on the exterior for the purpose of rescuing injury or trapped firefighters while others are inside. We have advanced life support providers that are expected to be on the scene within 8 minutes. If you don't know how Frederick County fares against these national standards, I urge you to ask your fire and rescue leadership how we do fare against those standards. While you may ask, why must we follow these standards? They're only standards and not law. I only state that you needed a serious injury or fire for the death to find that out. I urge you to not only support the 10 recommended positions, but elevate the remaining 13 for the safety of your family and mine. Thank you for consideration.
Thank you, sir.
Paul Limoges, and then Pat, I think it's Grosso.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. And my name is Paul Limoges, and I am the Advancement Officer at the Discovery Museum. And congratulations on a great presentation on the budget. Very, very interesting. And I'm here to describe a little bit about the Discovery Museum. I know that we made a presentation, a grant request to help us out in terms of as a nonprofit. This year we are celebrating our 20th anniversary of the museum, and we're going to have a big event on April 9th. So we know that it's a great asset in the community. We have a lot of comments of people coming from different states, different area of Virginia, and really are envious of the Discovery Museum because they want one in their own locality and things like that. Part of the request that we ask, and basically, so I'm planting the seed also for next year because I know there's complexity with the budget, but is we're not asking for operation money for the day-to-day operation, but in partnership with the Frederick County Public School, our goal is to have all elementary school children to come at the museum because we truly believe that we complement the work of the teachers. So some of the things that they cannot teach maybe as well in the classroom, or it's not as powerful because it's not hands-on, interactive, or experiential, they will come to the Discovery Museum and really experience the learning in a fun way, and then the teachers go back in the classroom, and really the children have a new learning about a certain subject, and so on. Another thing that I want to mention that is important to us is the economic development power that I feel the museum has. Now that we have moved from our 7,000 square feet building to close to 20,000 square feet building, so 3 times the size, we believe we're a state-of-the-art organization, and we want, of course, to continue to improve. So as we become a destination, we have people coming from other states or other region of Virginia that spend money here in Frederick County. So they go to restaurants, and hopefully they go to hotels and spend a weekend, and because they're looking for things to do with their children, and we believe that we are the place to be there. So I just want to say again, thank you for considering our requests, and we hope that we can continue to partner with you. And thank you for past donation to the museum of past funding. It's really appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Pat Grosso, and then Dave Savan.
Good evening. My name is Pat Grosso. I reside in the Gainsborough District. I'm a retired resident of Frederick County, and I'm speaking here tonight in favor of increasing the property tax to the maximum advertised amount to the full 8 cents. For many years, Frederick County Board of Supervisors has made a policy of keeping the tax rate very low compared to surrounding areas and the city of Winchester. The result is that our tax is the lowest of 14 surrounding similar localities. In fact, our tax is 35 cents less than the city of Winchester, and those are our own neighbors. This policy has resulted in a strain on all of the county services, as well as one of the lowest expenditures per capita of the surrounding areas. Each of our departments, from the fire and rescue to the schools, have had to make do with bare bones budgets for many years. Our fire departments are facing a shortage of volunteers. Thus, they are facing the need to transition to professional forces without seeing the increased budget. The schools have seen increased class size and reduced resources. In my last year teaching at Sharando, I was faced with class sizes of close to 28 students in classrooms designed for 24. Now, if you can imagine 28 seniors with me in this classroom teaching mathematics, it was not a fun experience. And for my last year's teaching, I was looking at the budgets over there. I retired in 2012, so I was during that period where the budget actually went down instead of up, and then had to live my retirement on that with the lack of salary increase, which they are still facing. The teachers have not been compensated fairly, as well as other county employees over the last several years. They've seen their stake in the county and their ability to live in this county has been impaired over the last several years. In fact, Frederick County has seen the median household increase to $68,000, which is above the median of the surrounding areas, and $24,000 higher than Winchester, with a higher tax rate. However, the majority of our county employees do not even reach that median income in the county after a full career in their profession in this county. In my opinion, this county, with a fairly high median income and a low unemployment rate, has the ability to pay that increased tax. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dave Savine, and then Stephen Flick is after that.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm David Savine, Superintendent of Frederick County Public Schools. I want to begin my comments by thanking you, as well as Mrs. Garton, for the ongoing dialogue we've had throughout the budget process. You certainly have a very difficult job, and I, along with the members of our school board, appreciate your willingness to work collaboratively with the school division to find solutions to issues that are in the best interest of our students and the citizens of Frederick County. Although some difficult decisions will have to be made regarding the budget in coming weeks, I believe we all want the same thing for Frederick County. We want to maintain a high quality of life we enjoy and make it even better. We want a community that is safe, one that is strong economically, one that provides opportunities for all citizens to learn and grow, and one in which issues and problems are addressed proactively in a civil manner with a focus on gathering accurate information and using that information to plan for a better future. I firmly believe public education is one, if not the most important keys to creating and maintaining the type of community we all want here in Frederick County. Public education, specifically Frederick County Public Schools, is critical to the local economy, as we are the second largest employer in the area, and our work is directly linked to the community's future, namely its children. By now, you are all aware the school division's needs are, and certainly are, in fact, that my proposed budget does not begin to address all of our needs, only those that are most critical. Based on your advertised budget that includes an 8-cent real estate tax increase and no use of fund balance for the schools, the school board will be forced into a difficult position by cutting its existing budget to give the state-supported 2% raise or to reject the state dollars and not give a raise. Here's why the raise is important. We're in the midst of a national teacher shortage, and Frederick County needs to remain competitive. The real truth is a 2% salary increase is not enough. Even with a 2% salary increase, our staff face a 15% or a higher increase in group health insurance rates. As a result, we will find it challenging to attract and retain high-quality staff. In addition to salaries, we are also concerned about larger class sizes, maintenance projects, as well as the need for school buses and technology. Again, you're very familiar with our challenges we have faced and we are continuing to face. We are one community, and there are needs to be addressed in all areas of county government, which I believe necessitates the need for a tax increase that has been advertised. It's an investment in our community's future, an investment in our community's children. Frederick County is fortunate to have an outstanding school division, and I look forward to working with you to assure you that we maintain and continually improve our schools so that Frederick County can be the community that we all want it to be. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Stephen Flick, followed by Joy Kirk.
Hello. I just moved down here a couple years ago from up north, so I'm one of those Yankees that came down and stayed. Sorry.
Welcome.
I'm against having a property tax increase, because basically, I think there's plenty of money involved for your schools and whatnot of what you're getting. Maybe a little bit less of an increase would be okay, but at this rate of an increase, you'd pretty much take a Social Security check out of most people just to pay a year's worth of taxes. So what are they going to eat on? You know, I mean, I'm on that list. I'm basically on Social Security, and that's it. But I was just talking to a fellow that does drywall, and you know, he's making about the same amount of money I was making for doing the same thing back in about 1989, 1990. A whole lot of people out here in this county haven't had a raise. I'm not real sure that the county employees need to be in a special bracket, that they're so much more valuable. You know, when I didn't like the amount of money I made, I went and found a job, made more money doing whatever. If they don't like the amount of money they're making, let them go someplace else and work. That's just the way it has to be. That's the way a business is run. You can only afford to pay so much. You can't always go out with your hand out to the people. They say they need more deputies. I don't know that they do. Just because somebody says they want more people, you know, everybody wants to have more people working for them, but that doesn't necessarily mean you just got to have them. Maybe they need to allocate their resources better. Just because other counties are overtaxed doesn't mean we have to jump in on it and jump over the cliff with it. There's other ways. If people think that the school needs more money, those people that's got all this money that they want to give to the school, they're welcome to go give it to the school, but they don't need to come get my money. The lady said something about 28 students to a teacher. When I was in school, the nuns had maybe 40, 50. They didn't mind. We had split classes. We was the baby boomers. I'm sure you all remember having one boatload of kids. You know, it's just the way it is. So that's just all I got to say. I think we've got plenty of taxes going around for everybody, and there's other ways of approaching the situation. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Joy Kirk, and then Karen Contreras.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, and thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. My name is Joy Kirk. I'm the president of the Frederick County Education Association and a resident of the Back Creek District. The school system each year presents its proposed budget to employees at our work sites. Dr. Sovine and his staff work hard to share what is being proposed. Every year we know the proposed budget must be funded to be a reality. We currently spend less than the regional or state averages when looking at the cost per pupil spending. We have over 13,000 critical needs in our school system. They are our future, our students. They deserve every advantage we can give them. During the recession, many teaching positions were lost due to funding. In 2009, we had 986 teaching positions, and currently we have 973, which includes 22 full-day kindergarten teachers, not counted in 2009. At the same time, we have seen an increase in student population. This has led to larger class sizes in many instances and a loss of course options at the middle and high school levels. However, we all continue to do what is best for the students. I would like to share with you some examples of how my colleagues go above and beyond. Teachers across the county come in early or stay late to provide enrichment or remediation opportunities for students. Many teachers use their lunchtime as a time for help with struggling students. Faculty and staff volunteer their time to make athletic events, club events, dances, key content nights such as a math night, reading night, ESL night, or gifted academic night, and more happen at our schools year-round. These individuals are giving of their own time without hesitation because they know they are making a difference. Many educators also volunteer time to help with community events on weekends and in the evening because they know it makes a difference not only for our students, but in our community. Our schools benefit from excellent educational support professionals. We have custodians and maintenance workers keeping our schools safe, clean, and operational. We have secretarial staff who know parents and grandparents when they come in to pick up their children and address them by name. We have cafeteria workers who greet students and ask them how their day is going, and this makes a good day even better. We have bus drivers who have provided school supplies for students in need on their buses. These are just a few of the ways that Frederick County Public Schools faculty and staff go above and beyond. We know the students in our classrooms are the future of this community. I'm not just a Frederick County Public School teacher. I am a proud stepmother of 3 James Wood High School graduates. Today, all of them are college graduates, and one is working on a dual master's degree. Each daughter had a different academic path, but they all built their foundations right here in Frederick County Public Schools. I am proud to be a colleague and to speak on behalf of those individuals who made a difference in my daughters' lives. They never hesitated to go above and beyond and help them succeed. I ask you, please support the advertised 8-cent budget and considering slowly decreasing the use of monies from the general fund balance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen Contreras, and then John, I think it's Lamana.
Good evening, esteemed board. My name is Karen Contreras. I live in the Back Creek District. Contreras. For short people, right? Okay. My children attend a county elementary school, and both my husband and I are Frederick County teachers. I have taught at James Wood High School for 12 years. I am not here tonight to comment on teachers' salaries. I am here tonight to comment on the need to invest more in the county's children who spend so much of their waking hours in our schools each day. I would like to begin by sharing this passage from Great Expectations, which my students and I discussed during a recent lesson. Pip, the narrator, is a young man who has just been humiliated by a peer and made to feel self-conscious about his station in life. He describes how it affected him and says, "In the little world in which children have their existence, whosoever brings them up, there is nothing so finely perceived and so finely felt as injustice. It may be only a small injustice that the child can be exposed to, but the child is small, and the world is small, and its rocking horse stands as many hands high, according to scale, as a big-boned Irish hunter." I teach teens who are still children, even though they look much like adults. Yet I see them bawling their eyes out because the love of their life, a boyfriend or girlfriend of 2 weeks, broke up with them between first and second block. I see kids beside themselves because of the Twitter poll that named them in the Who Has the Weirdest Clothes contest. I see them having words because someone was staring at them. What seems so small to us is large to them. You see, being a kid isn't as easy as we adults assume. Yes, they have fewer responsibilities than adults who take care of them, but they haven't been around long enough to develop perspective and coping mechanisms. Now add to that the heartbreaks that are insurmountable to even adults. Loss of a parent to illness, divorce, jail, addiction, accident, or suicide. Some students face hunger and homelessness. Some students struggle with their own addictions or illnesses. Some students deal with harassment and bullying that leave them feeling worthless. One thing I've learned as a teacher is that I really can assume nothing about a child who has just walked through my door, whether it is the first day of school or the last. Furthermore, the kids I teach come from a variety of homes. Some bounce from place to place. Some have grandparents struggling to do their best to raise a child when almost everything about parenting has changed since they last did it. Some of my students come from homes where raising that child is the foremost priority and concern. Some of my kids are the parents in their home. But here are two things all of my students have in common. They all have someone in their lives who cares for them and would grieve deeply if they were gone. And number two, they all come to a school where grown-ups want to teach them, help them become healthy adults, and provide for their needs. These two things give us the greatest cause for hope that students will eventually make it through to adulthood. So when students are lost, these are the things I look to for a chance to keep the next child from falling through the cracks. According to the CDC, suicide was the second leading cause of death amongst 15 to 24-year-old Americans in 2015. It was the third leading cause of death for children ages 10 to 14. We don't talk about it, but we know families whom this has happened to. Frederick County families. Frederick County Public Schools has been stripped of resources since the recession. The motto for so long has been doing more with less. Class sizes are up, elective choices are limited, caseloads are huge, and extras like support groups have disappeared. It is time to seriously invest in our children. It is time to put our money where our mouths is. I ask the board to consider a tax increase to allow the local school system not only to improve instruction, but to allow for more opportunities to help our children. Teachers, counselors, administrators, and other school staff often are the first responders in a child's crisis. For a variety of reasons, a student may have a better opportunity to fight hopelessness, depression, humiliation, or suicidal ideation during the school day. Schools can have a huge impact on students beyond academics. Please help our schools do this by funding them adequately. Your vote on this issue has implications beyond test scores and graduation rates. If your decision to invest more in our school district prevents one Frederick County family from having to deal with the suicide of a child, then I'm sure it will be worth it to all of your constituents. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
John Lamanna, I think it is, and then William Meyer.
Say something about short people here. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm John Lamanna, Chairman of the Frederick County School Board and resident of the Shawnee District. I'm representing the school board and over 2,000 employees and 1,300 students of the Frederick County Public Schools. On behalf of the school board, I want to thank you for working with us throughout the budget process, engaging in a dialogue about what the school division needs now and in the future. Dr. Savine has shared the school division's proposed budget for fiscal year 17 and reflects our most critical needs. There are many other needs that are not reflected in the budget because we recognize the limited resources available. We have had difficult years in the near past managing fiscal demands and realities. Collectively, our two boards have navigated those difficult times in a collaborative, mutually supportive manner, focusing on the needs of one community. An influence in decisions during those times was hope for better times ahead, and so the can was kicked down the road. Maybe the next year was often heard. Each year we delayed the decision to increase revenue to meet growing needs of a vibrant community. We have caught up to that can. It can be kicked no further. The school division can stretch its current resources no further. As with a rubber band pulled to its extreme will eventually snap, we are indeed at that point in maintaining our infrastructure, our salaries, and our sustainability. The school division and county government have worked together to try to maintain a delicate balance between meeting the needs of citizens and maintaining a reasonable tax rate. Striking that balance should remain a priority. It is time, though, to look beyond the yearly budget cycle and better plan for the county and school division's fiscal future. Unfortunately, current county budget proposal does little more than address debt service, open Frederick County Middle School, cover retirement obligations, and expected health insurance increases. All of our most critical needs will not be addressed in fiscal year 17, even if the real estate tax rate is raised by 8 cents. Many of those needs will remain next year, and some will grow more critical. The same is true for the county government's most critical needs, such as public safety. As new schools are built and old ones are renovated and expanded, investment will be necessary in order to ensure that the quality education provided to students in Frederick County today remains available for students in the future. But we are one community. We recognize that needs exist in other county services and departments. Therefore, the school board supports the advertised tax increase and the continued use of fund balance to address current county needs. and a regressive reliance on fund balance planned forward over the next several years. Thank you again for your attention, concern, and continued support of Frederick County Schools.
Thank you, sir.
William Meyer, then followed by William, I believe it's Barty.
Gentlemen and ladies, good presentation.
Thank you.
That was one of the best I've ever seen.
There you go. Thank you, sir. It'll get there for you.
After looking at the presentation, the reality is that I see it is no taking money from the fund balance. Correct? So that means your golden goose is dry, gentlemen. And I'm thinking last year's budget was not a true budget because you took money from the budget, from the fund. This looks like to me it's a true budget. No more robbing Peter to pay Paul. 8-cent tax increase. And I'm sure you're going to have a tax increase next year too. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
William Barty, followed by Jay Martz.
My name is William Barty from the Shawnee District. I oppose this 8% tax increase. I've written several times in the past 2 years to my Board of Supervisor. One of the things in the Board of Supervisor was the increasing costs, look outside the box, where can there be cost savings? I did not see any cost savings tonight. I didn't see any projection of what, if this budget is passed, what are the future budgets going to cost, how much money is going to be involved. The growth is not justifying the amount of funds, tax increases being requested. I live in a small 44, 42 home development. At least 16, 17 of my neighbors are elderly, retirement age, living on fixed income. I don't think an 8% tax, property tax, is good for them to sustain a quality of life. I've been here coming to budget hearings for about 5 years. About 5 years ago, budget, there were surpluses between now and then, a couple of $1 million, several $1 million. I pleaded and begged to save that money, funds for a rainy day. The money got spent on teacher salaries increases, bonuses. We are paying part of the teachers, or even all the teachers' state retirement funds now. Somebody said their insurance increased. All of our insurance has increased. Our insurance went up $480 a year. So as the surplus has increased these past few years, so has the government, county funds, school funds. We're at that point where the county taxpayers, especially homeowners, cannot afford this kind of size of government. And what we're building, as the other gentleman spoke, is living on Social Security. You're building a county of two classes of people, the haves and the have-nots. You got to have a balance. Certain number of households cannot support. 5 years ago, I think the teacher's average beginning salary was around $30,000. Now it's averaging, I think, somewhere around $40,000. State's going to give them a 2% increase. County or the school system's going to want to give them a 3% increase. That's 5%. How much increase? Between 30,000 and 40,000. Nobody in the last 5 or 7 years' income has increased at that level. Also, to try to find out what's the fire department, what's an official call in the fire department. After 5 phone calls, a couple of emails, I get a computer generated, looked like an email, and they could not answer that, told me that's a Freedom of Information record. Get it under FOIA. Several other items here. I just want you to remind you one thing. Your core principles, the very first item, before you make a final decision, please read that, because it states in there you would fairly treat all citizens and look out for their interests. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Jay Martz, and then Jerry Swager, following him?
Good evening. I'm Jay March from the Gainsborough Magisterial District, Chairman DeHaven, members of the board, Administrator Garten. I'm here speaking for myself and also on behalf of many, many citizen taxpayers who signed these 20 pages of petitions that were initiated by the Northern Shenandoah Valley Tea Party, most from my district in Gainsborough, but many also from the Stonewall District, up towards about 150 people. The land-holding peasants are restless. Now, this pitchfork is my little attempt at humor to bring attention to the actions that you're preparing to take to counter one of your own proposed core values. The board says the county government is dedicated to providing responsible stewardship of county funds. Many of us believe it is fiscally irresponsible to raise taxes, increase the debt, dip into savings, and expand the government in the face of higher revenue that you would get if you did nothing, year after year. If you did nothing, you'd get at least $9 million more into this county. I believe that you and I believe that all the members up here are members of a political party whose creed espouses fiscal responsibility, budgetary restraint, lower taxes, smaller and less government. Our population grows about 1%. Our budget increases near 20. This is not budgetary restraints. An 8-cent property tax jump equates to a 14.3 increase. This is not lower taxes. A proposed addition of 50 county employees with a 4% pay raise is not less than smaller government. Just a couple small examples. I don't know how you can justify expanding government, raising taxes, increasing debt, and raiding the rainy day fund to pay for things like refurbishing swimming pools. Yet there is no discussion on increasing any of the user fees in the Parks and Rec Department that might make them self-sufficient. Your funding of outside and other agencies appears to be upwards to $8 million. While there may be some community good being accomplished, I do not believe in a year where you are expanding government, raising taxes, increasing debt, and raiding the rainy day fund reserve that you should be using our tax dollars to fund organizations that any citizen can provide a charitable contribution. Handley Library just received $4.5 million donation. Why are you raising my taxes, taking my money, to give Handley Library another $1 million? Please vote no to any tax increase until you curb the natural bureaucratic appetite for government growth and provide the taxpayers with detailed justification of need. Show an effort to reduce cost and improve productivity within our county government. Thank you for allowing me to address the board.
Thank you, sir.
Jerry Swager and then Peggy Clark.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm Jerry Swager, a resident of Frederick County, residing in the Gainsborough District with a student attending Frederick County Public Schools. I also happen to be the Director of Elementary Instructional Services for the county school system. I came before you last spring to share with you the incredible gains made by our students experiencing full-day kindergarten for the first time as a result of well-funded budget requests for the 2014-15 school year. You will be pleased to know that those students continue to demonstrate growth at levels not seen in the past. At the start of this school year, over 60% of first graders were considered on grade level, just slightly less than double those in prior years. And by February, the number of students considered well below grade level expectations had been cut in half twice. This significant achievement was possible because of the budget support we received from the county in the past 2 years and is only one example of how appropriate financial support can impact our students. Another example of the positive impact of appropriate funding is the hiring of instructional coaches at 6 of our elementary schools. Our teachers work hard, juggling a classroom full of students while also working tirelessly outside the classroom to meet the many different needs of all of their students, and every year the list just gets longer and longer. Having an instructional coach in the building provides these extremely busy and often overwhelmed teachers with an immediate source of support. It's hard work. Instructional coaches can help teachers navigate that work so that teachers can accomplish more. Our coaches have provided training, have helped teachers implement training, have led team meetings, have examined research, have helped with curriculum, have helped analyze data. Again, the list is exhausting. Their roles in our schools have proved invaluable, and we cannot imagine not having them. When teachers have additional time and support, students benefit in the classroom. The funding we received last year for this important initiative was critical, and it has made a difference. However, we are once again facing extremely limited proposed funding levels as compared to our $11 million request. We have 6 coaches in 11 elementary schools. Our goal this year was to get 5 more coaches so that teachers and students in our other schools could receive the same benefit. With only $4 million, students at the 5 remaining schools will not have that chance. We have goals to provide additional training to second grade teachers, recognizing they will have students next year who are far better prepared than previous students have been. With only $4 million, that training may not happen. We have hardworking, dedicated teachers who deserve to be additionally compensated for their work. With only $4 million, no raise will happen, and many of our employees will slide backwards financially due to rising health care and retirement costs. Frederick County Public Schools are consistently recognized as leaders in the region, in the state, or even nationally for the work we do, yet we have the lowest per pupil expenditures in this region. We have one of the lowest tax rates in the entire state, but have one of the highest average incomes in the state. When you consider those points, it's not unreasonable to expect better funding from the county to support our work so that we can continue to excel and achieve on behalf of the students we serve. Our students deserve better than just $4 million. Please fully fund our budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peggy Clark is next.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm Peggy Clark, Frederick County School Board member and resident of the Red Bud District. I've been a resident of the Red Bud District for over 30 years. I was a local educator until my retirement in 2008 and am the elected school board member from the Red Bud District. I love living in Frederick County. My husband and I have raised 4 children in Frederick County who all attended Senseney Road Elementary School, James Wood Middle School, and James Wood High School. All 4 of our children are married, have homes, and good jobs, thanks to the fine education that they received in Frederick County schools. One of our sons, a graduate of James Wood, Lord Fairfax, and Shenandoah University, is a county employee, and his wife and 2 little boys live in the Red Bud District. We look forward to our grandchildren attending Frederick County's excellent schools in a few years. The General Assembly has approved a 2% pay raise for teachers beginning in December 2016 and a 3% pay raise for state employees. The school board will not be able to give the school employees the 2% pay raise without additional funding from the Board of Supervisors. Due to the opening of the new Frederick County Middle School, debt service obligations, and other required cost increases. Therefore, our teachers and staff will experience yet another drop in buying power within their own community. If our teachers are not able to meet their financial obligations in this county, many could be forced to look at neighboring counties where the salaries are higher. It is not by accident that Frederick County is one of the best places to live in the state. We have prospered and continue to grow when other areas in the state have seen a decline. Having strong schools and services will ensure that Frederick County remains vibrant. Please provide the funding needed to keep us on the road to success. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Mark Anderson, followed by, I think, a group, Katie Borland, Renee Garneau, and Marissa Bringhurst.
Good evening. My name is Mark Anderson. I live in the Stonewall District. I also am the chairman of the Frederick County Libertarians. I'll make this brief. I just want to say that government cannot tax itself into prosperity. We can't raise taxes and think we're going to be prosperous people. It's like a hungry snake starting to eat its tail. For every dollar that is removed from the economy through taxes is a dollar that will never be regained in the economy. It's gone forever. To keep the taxes low, a lot has been made of Frederick County's tax rates compared to neighboring communities. That's a good thing. That's not a problem that needs to be corrected. And I suppose that is about all I have. I just want to remind the board that the local community is watching, and the 2015 election should point to where our eyes are turning. So please keep that into consideration tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Katie Borland, Renee Garneau, Marissa Bringhurst, and then Donna McFarland.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Our names are Renee Garneau, Katie Borland, and Marissa Bringhurst, and we are 8th graders currently attending Admiral Richard E. Byrd Middle School. We all reside in the Shawnee District, and on behalf of our fellow students, faculty, and peers, we would like to propose a 9th and 10th grade gifted academic program curriculum. It has come to our attention that plans for said curriculum have been drafted, but there are not enough funds to hire a teacher for the class. The reasoning behind this notion includes the fact that the PRISMs and other gifted academic courses are highly recommended by previous students and provide a diverse study that deviates from typical classes students may partake in. When the middle school gifted students hold their showcase, they always receive glowing responses from the attendees, and the result will not differ if a high school showcase is held. Most students who have chosen to take the PRISMs class in middle school will without a doubt take it again in the coming years at high school. It was quite a large disappointment to us and our peers when we discovered there was not said program for the 9th and 10th grade.
We have all partaken in the gifted academic program beginning in either 3rd or 4th grade and have found a beneficial atmosphere that differs from our core classes, giving us higher level thinking skills and the ability to achieve what is not accomplished in state required classes. The skills learned in this curriculum can be easily applied to other classes, and the results of this method of learning is shown in our grades. Taking gifted academics has in turn given us the chance to take higher level core classes. The freedom to choose what we research also greatly influences what we gain from this class. The ability to dictate what information you gather is beneficial to students' attitudes towards learning. We consider the class as a break in the strict SOL dictated curriculum of the core classes and find it easier to gather information. This class will also help ourselves and our peers in the future. The skills learned can be used in college and jobs after graduation to help the former students to succeed.
Although we seem to lack numbers to support us, we assure you that many of our peers would be here if they were able. Unfortunately, we are middle school students that have many after-school plans and no means of transporting ourselves here without a parent or sibling's help. We also lack physical evidence to support the fact that we are not alone, but the problem has only recently come to our attention. Therefore, we did not have the ideal amount of time to prepare for tonight's meeting. We thank you for your consideration on the matter of hiring a teacher to instruct the curriculum that is 9th and 10th grade gifted academic program. Our peers and ourselves greatly appreciate that you have taken the time to ponder the notion we have provided. The addition of 9th and 10th grade gifted academic program will positively influence gifted students' time in high school. It will also create a new branch of learning that no previous 9th or 10th grader has had the opportunity to obtain. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, ladies. Well done.
Donna McFarland and then Eric Hanna.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Donna McPartland, and I live in the Opequon District. I graduated from Jameswood High School, class of 1984. After graduating high school, going to college, landing my dream job, getting married, and moving to Florida, my husband and I decided to move our 4, 5, and under boys back to my hometown of Winchester, Virginia. We decided that due to my positive experiences as a young person in Frederick County and the quality of life that Frederick County had to offer, that it was the place we wanted to raise our family. We chose to live in the Opequon District, in which I call paradise. I have been an educator and a motivator of physical education and health at Admiral Byrd Middle School for 7 years now. All 5 of my children are or have been students in the Frederick County Public School System. My 2 oldest sons have recently graduated from Sharando High School. One of my sons is going to Harvard. He will be playing football and attending Harvard in the fall of 2016. He is a product of Frederick County Public Schools. Besides great parenting, a great work ethic, and dreams, he had amazing teachers that helped him on his journey. But Harvard doesn't give scholarships, and although I adore my job at Admiral Byrd Middle School, this has led me to consider going over the mountain in search of a more competitive salary and compensation package. We are given $100 a year for classroom and instructional supplies. That is less than $1 per student. This causes me to use my salary to get needed educational materials, equipment, and resources for my classes. I have spent thousands of dollars over the years, and my husband gets very upset at me for doing so, but I do it anyway. So many times we teachers are asked to give. Give to the United Way, give to the less fortunate, give to so many charities. We also take it upon ourselves to help needy students or a colleague who has fallen on tough times. We are asked, told, persuaded to join committees which extend our days and nights, but do not come with additional monies. I don't mind having a tax increase because I know our taxes are the lowest of our surrounding localities of similar size, but we have the 7th highest income. I also don't mind knowing that it could fund our educators, from bus drivers, secretaries, teachers, administrators, our police officers, firefighters, and community servants who make Frederick County a better place, and who are so deserving of it. There are great teachers leaving our county every year due to the pay scale. Let's keep those teachers here. Let's be competitive with the other counties. Let's have more students with dreams of going to Harvard achieve just that. Let's have the best and keep the best to help our students pursue the best. Thank you very much for your time and consideration. I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eric Hanna, and then Nina Koch.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the Board and County Administrator. My name is Eric Hanna. I am a resident of the Red Bud District and also a firefighter and paramedic with the Frederick County Fire Rescue Department. Tonight I would like to address you about the proposed budget. This morning I had the opportunity to sit in on a county employee meeting with the County Administrator as she laid out her budget, and I have to say I completely agree with it, and I think she's completely on point, not only with the process of being more inclusive, but also the direction in which she's outlining. I would like to thank you for the past support that you've given the Fire Rescue Department. The additional personnel you have given us has allowed us to put 24-hour staffing in both the Gore and the Reynolds Store stations, which has helped improve public safety in those areas. Also, with the additional staffing down in the Star Tannery station, that leaves only one more fire station that does not have 24-hour full-time staffing, and that's North Mountain. They've requested that staffing, and with the additional personnel, we'll be able to give that staffing to them. I would also like to, I support this budget, and I support the real estate tax increase because not because I believe in, higher taxes. I want to pay higher taxes because I see the possibilities and what those taxes will do for the citizens of Frederick County, not only in fire rescue, but also in law enforcement and the public safety in general. You've heard tonight and this evening representatives of the school system, public safety, speak out, in favor of, funding, and of course everyone wants money. But I really see the potential here. To not only provide better staffing, throughout the county, staffing Station 19, North Mountain, to provide those citizens of the Shawnee and Mountain Falls Park area with, better protection 24/7. But I also see future needs. Right now, the Lutheran Village Senior Center and Community is in process of, I believe, Phase 2 of their expansion, which is going to add hundreds of more elderly citizens to the population. These citizens will significantly tax our fire rescue services. Right now, we have 2 full-time career staff at Station 15, which is Round Hill. If they're out on a call already at one of the other 2 nursing homes they have in their area, they will be unable to respond immediately and timely to Lutheran Village. Larger populations, especially in the elderly, are going to significantly increase the burden on our fire rescue services. With that, I would like to thank you for this opportunity to speak with you this evening and offer my encouragement that you support the county administrator's budget. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Nina Cock. I seen her name wrong.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Nina Koch.
Sorry. I knew I had to butcher somebody's name.
It happens. I am a resident of the Shawnee District, a parent, and an education support professional in Frederick County Public Schools. ESPs are the foundation of our school community. We are active in our communities. We are focused on student safety. The majority of us live in our school districts. We are experienced. We are committed to our careers and educating our children. Clerical ESPs provide courteous and helpful assistance to school and office visitors. We are on the front lines of all office operations, working in settings from schools to administrative offices to transportation facilities. We interact daily with students, parents, and staff. We make the first impression a positive and lasting one about our schools and our school district. Custodial and maintenance ESPs help by keeping schools clean and safe for our students, staff, and the community. In addition to the duties most often associated with our jobs, we perform a dizzying array of other tasks such as clearing snow, making minor repairs, cleaning up spills, painting, maintaining boilers, and many other necessary activities. Food services ESPs ensure our children have access to safe and nutritious meals. We provide a basic component of student success, nutrition, which influences students' behavior, energy levels, thinking, physical health, and overall well-being. Health and Student Services ESPs provide a variety of services that improve and protect student health and welfare. In addition to our traditional tasks, we provide education that encourages students to maintain good health independently. We help students surmount physical obstacles to their learning by assisting students with chronic conditions and disabilities. Paraeducators help by assisting with classroom instructions and providing direct services to students and their parents. A large number of us work with special needs students. All of us have responsibilities that directly impact academic achievement and school safety. Security services ESPs ensure a safe and secure school environment for all. We may provide counsel or befriend at-risk students. We are positive role models for all with whom we interact. Skilled trades ESPs help by maintaining and improving the physical quality of school buildings, offices, and facilities. We ensure that our buildings are safe, comfortable, and attractive for students, staff, and the community. Technical services ESPs are at the center of all efforts to maintain high standards of technology and communications in great public schools. We install, repair, and upgrade vital computers, phones, and networks that enable the timely communication of essential information between parents, school district employees, and students. We mentor students, teachers, and staff in the use of the latest technologies and are continually learning about the trends and innovations in our field. Sharing this knowledge directly contributes to the student success in our rapidly changing world. Transportation services ESPs operate and maintain all of a school system's vehicles. We are the first to greet students on their way to school and the last to bid them goodbye as they return home. We are often the first to recognize when a student is troubled, in need, or ill. We are responsible for safely getting students to and from school in various weather and traffic conditions, emergency evacuation procedures, student conduct and discipline, and training and safety standards for the transportation of special education students. What are ESPs? We are part of one education workforce serving the whole student. We are dedicated to educating our children. Education support professionals are integral and essential to our school system's success. We are here tonight to support an 8-cent real estate increase tax to help maintain highly qualified and experienced ESPs and to work toward attaining a living wage for those ESPs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cope.
Mr. Chair, that's the last person who signed up ahead of time on the sign-up list.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to address the board this evening? Anyone? Yes, sir. If you'd come forward, please.
Hi, my name is for the tall people. My name is Jordan Wilner, and I have 2 kids. They go to Frederick County Public Schools, and I'm completely for an increase, the 8% increase. And I'm not going to repeat what everyone said already, but another thing I think we have to consider is we're just not competing with other countries, other counties. When I look at my kids, we're competing in a global economy. And if our schools aren't fully funded, if our kids can't get everything that they need, then my 7-year-old and 3-year-old, by the time they're in high school, are they going to be able to compete with the Chinese, with the Indians, with the North Koreans? So in addition to what everyone else has said in support of the increase, I just also want to keep that in mind that in addition to other counties, we're talking about the entire world. So I just hope that we have that increase and that we can keep our kids going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Board, Mrs. Garton, my name is Alan Morrison from Gainsborough District. I am a resident of Frederick County. I grew up here. I graduated from James Wood. I had 3 children graduate from James Wood. I am a former public school teacher. I am glad to hear that so many of the county employees and school board employees are actually doing their jobs. It lightens my heart to know that they go to a job and they do their job. However, if I can paraphrase Dame Maggie Thatcher, former Prime Minister of Great Britain, and I'm going to paraphrase this, one of the economic problems of most governments is you eventually run out of other people's money. And every dollar Frederick County spends, either for the government or for the schools, is other people's money. Schools and county government are not profit centers. They cannot generate profits. They determine their needs, what they wish to do, and then they expect somebody to find the money, and that is your job. I call this an entitlement mentality to running any kind of operation. Contrasting that, you have reality, where you're running a business or you're running a household, and you begin with, how much money do I have and what can I achieve with that amount of money? What you have to do in these cases, and I did for almost 40 years, is when your intent to do something is not able to match up the amount of income you have, you find ways to make it work. You go through cost improvements, you look at process improvements, you increase your efficiency. I worked for 10 years with a Japanese company, and we went through all of the Japanese manufacturing and processing improvement processes that you have to go through. You do this because there is not an infinite supply of money. I am retired. I live off of Social Security and investments. Investment income has been at the pits for the last 8 to 9 years. Regardless of what you hear on the evening news, the economy has not rebounded, investments have not rebounded, and there's no sight coming where you will be able to depend on your investments as a stream of money. I understand the necessity of government to provide for the citizens. I understand the difficulty you have in your job. Also understand that there's a lot of people out there who cannot generate funds simply by wishing or demanding that they had it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mrs. Garton, I'm Stuart Walk, and I'm a resident of the Shawnee District. I'd like to preface my comments by thanking you. I thank you for agreeing to do a very tough job in governing our wonderful county. I thank you for the quality of life we enjoy, to include low taxes, through this governance. And I thank you for being open-minded to change, to realizing that this is not the Frederick County that most of us remember from when we either moved here or, in a lot of cases, were raised here. Along with this change comes demands. Demands for services, demands for improving the infrastructure, demands for civility. Too often the latter gets ignored by a vocal minority, but you have stood tall and honorable in opening a dialogue to address the other two demands. I had intended to come here tonight to speak to the overall budget and the needs of all the county's departments. Make no mistake, there are many, to include the Sheriff's Office, Fire and Rescue, and Parks and Recreation. Putting my hat as a realtor, I can tell you of people coming to our area and desiring and expecting these services. A strong infrastructure, which includes a strong and well-funded school system, is the sign of a strong community. And most of those I deal with in this capacity are shocked by our low tax rate. However, old habits die hard, and I would like to primarily address you in regards to the school system's operating budget. During my tenure on the school board, I was fortunate to be part of a concerted effort to improve communications between the school board and the Board of Supervisors in order to better serve the citizens of the county. The relationship the two boards now share is to be commended and needs to continue to strengthen, as there are many significant issues facing our community as it begins to grow at a more rapid pace again. During my time on the school board, we navigated our way through many challenges, and when my final term on the board ended in January, there were still many challenges we faced. For years, I and my fellow board members shared the need for additional funding to hire the staff needed to maintain reasonable class sizes, to proactively address maintenance issues, to replace aging technology and antiquated systems, to buy replacement buses, and to provide competitive salaries to teachers and other staff that make the difference for our students. Education is a people business, and without high-quality staff, students do not receive the educations they deserve and need in order to compete in today's world. While some progress has been made over time, the school board annually finds itself in the position of deciding what critical needs must be addressed within a limited budget and what critical needs have to be pushed back another year. The need for replacement buses serves as an example. Based on the size of the school division's bus fleet, 13 buses should be replaced annually. Currently, there are only enough operational funds available to purchase the replacement bus. I'm going to skip over something because it's about to go. I encourage you to adopt the budget that's been advertised, including the 8 cent real estate tax increase. Although Frederick County already provides more than the required local effort for education, the most current information from the State Department of Education show we lag behind the state and regional averages in per pupil funding and spending. In fact, we lag behind our neighbors in Winchester and Clark County. I believe our children deserve better, and the budget that's been proposed for FY17 is a step in the right direction. Again, I thank you for your service and all you do to make Frederick County a great place to live, work, and raise a family. Anyone who feels your job is an easy one has blinders on.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Ray Cross. I'm a member of the Appoquon District. I'm not going to disagree with the budget that showed the 8-cent increase. But if you look at your unassigned fund balance, that's growing every year. I think you have enough money in your current budget without that if you used some of those funds. I heard the reason not to use them, and that's, I agree that, how do I want to say this? It is like a savings account. But if your savings account is growing every year and getting significantly larger than you need, then you're putting too much into savings and you're not spending the money that you have coming in. And I think you should take another look at your unassigned funds and make sure that it's required that you have the levels that you're building up to. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Please. I can't see everyone back there, so just. Thank you.
My name is Beverly Soriano. I live up in Clearbrook, District 29. I don't know about raising the budget. Possibly it's very necessary. One of my big problems is where the money comes from. I'm down here 11 years, and I see a tremendous growth in housing and in traffic. And where I used to live, when they built a huge development, it was required that the builder had to put a lot of money for a new school. And I see us having to pay for new schools. They also had to put money toward teaching. And I think this is something that you should consider, because people that are moving into the community are young, they have a lot of children, and we are about tapped out. So either you're going to lose all of your elderly people, maybe that's a good thing, I don't know. But having moved once from where it was, the taxes were unbelievable, and when we moved down here, it was pretty good. We thought it was much better. That's why we came here. But now, over the 11 years, it's going and going and going. So I would like to see another way of funding the schools. I know the schools eat up a lot of money. My husband was school board president for 9 years where we lived before. And it was always the schools, the schools, the schools. And they're wonderful. We produced wonderful children. The schools are great. We're producing wonderful children here. The teachers are great. The schools are great. However, it's a lot of money, and it's coming from the people. It's got to come from possibly the businesses, because the businesses are reaping all these benefits. But it has to come from the builders, because they are the ones who are bringing all the people in here with all the children. So I would suggest that you look somewhere else for some of your funding. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, Chairman and members of the board. I'll be brief. I just wanted to say I'm a Frederick County teacher and also a Frederick County resident. I'm a transplant to this area, so as a Maryland resident, I can say that the taxes here are significantly lower than what I have paid my entire life until I chose to move here. I am here because I love this community and I love the school division, so I fully support the 8-cent tax increase to fully support the schools as well as the emergency personnel and the rest of the county budget. Thank you.
We need your name. Ma'am, we need your name.
Trout.
Shannon.
Trout.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Hey, sorry,
sir.
Mr. Chairman.
We don't permit you to speak a second time until everyone else has had a first chance, but we will come back to you. Anyone else? Anyone? Yes, sir?
Hello, members of the board. Didn't originally plan on speaking today, but I guess that's happening. My name is Noah Sullivan. I'm a junior at Jameswood High School. My mother is an elementary school teacher in this district, and I come from 2 sets of grandparents that were all teachers, and they all taught English. So you better believe my grammar is corrected anytime they're around. I just came today to talk to you guys about the experiences I have for an everyday life, and I'm the product of the budget you guys are discussing. I'm a member of the varsity football and varsity basketball program at Jameswood High School, and day in and day out, I'm supported by my teachers and coaches who come before practice and stay late and give up quality time with their family so they can devote their time to the kids, and we strongly appreciate that, and I feel like that's overlooked oftentimes because they sacrifice a lot for us kids, and it really shows once it gets on the field or once it gets on the court, and we really appreciate all they do. Something else I appreciate is whenever we sign up for our classes, there's also an abundance of different things you can think of that you can sign up for. There's a large spectrum that you can think of, and whatever you see on the list is available for you to take. So I know with all these different programs, as competitive as the workplace is today, it's preparing us for college and it's also preparing us for the workplace. So I fully support this 8-cent budget. May not be paying it right now, but just thought I'd get that out there. God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well done. Tough speech to follow, but would anyone like a shot? Anyone else? Anyone? Sir?
I forget who he was. What was his name?
William Myers, Shawnee District. The gentleman that spoke to you about the fire and rescue at Round Hill, those people deserve a lot of credit. I work at Spring Arbor. When we call Round Hill to pick up a resident, to take to Winchester Hospital. They're there in 6 minutes. And there's always two people. They're polite, they do their jobs, but they're there for the residents of Spring Arbor. So that Round Hill Rescue Squad area will get very busy with the National Lutheran Home and us. So please, fund that station. We need it.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak? Anyone at all? Well, we certainly thank you for participating and contributing to our hearing. You're a very important part of the process. Your comments were thoughtful, insightful, and heartfelt, and we appreciate you taking time out of your busy lives to come and share with us. Thank you again. All right. We'll close the public hearing. Under that item, we have a discussion to select additional dates.
Yes, sir. You have at your seat a multicolored, as is my practice, spreadsheet showing the dates that we suggested as potential additional work sessions. I don't know how many you want to set. I guess it depends on how much more discussion you feel you need about the proposed budget. I believe Mr. DeHaven has said that while Tuesday, March 29th at 6 he was originally okay with, now he would not be able to attend. So the only one that I can see that everyone is okay with is Tuesday, April 5th at 6. And then I think in conversations with some of you, Thursday, March 31st at 6 is okay. So I don't know how many more you wish to set, but those would be the two that seem to be possible.
It stays open.
It's not the fire alarm, folks. It's just the doors being held open. We'll get it fixed. Okay, folks. Tuesday, April the 5th at 6 p.m. Looked like everyone was available. Do we have a desire to meet that evening?
I do. I think it's a good idea, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we're going to do Tuesday, April the 5th at 6 p.m. Are there any of the other dates that folks would desire to meet?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Do we need to meet more than once? I mean, it's your call.
It's entirely up to the group. We were just trying to identify opportunities. We can use them or not. Entirely up to us.
I'm just asking as a fellow peer whether we need one meeting or two, and if so, because we have a deadline, I guess, at the 7th, to move one prior to that, such as the 31st. It's an open question. I'll defer to your judgment and to the administrator's judgment on how much time we do or do not need.
You're better off to set more while you're here all talking, and then you can cancel them later, than not set enough, and then you can't figure out when to do it, so.
I'll just defer, I'll defer and see what the rest of you think or don't think and go from there.
Okay, well, we've selected April the 5th. How do we feel about an additional date?
I think it's a good idea to have at least one more.
Okay, so I think I hear consensus for another date. So let's see if we can home in on one.
I suggest March 31st.
Thought maybe about March 31st.
It seems to work for almost everyone.
Yeah.
And we'll change the time to 6:30 instead of 6. That accommodates two other folks. Is that agreeable?
March 31st?
March 31st at 6:30 p.m. instead of 6?
And April 5th on what time, sir?
6 p.m., as we had previously discussed.
6:30.
Everyone happy with that?
6:30. That'll work.
All right. Takes care of that one. So that brings us to board liaison reports. Are there any?
Mr. Chairman, yes, I have a little bit of information I'd like. A little bit of information here I'd like to impart to the board. As liaison to the Social Services Board, each month we get introduced to the different departments and how their work is going and what they're dealing with. I found two items in the last Social Services meeting I'd like to share with you that unfortunately are not good items. Number one, in the first 6 months of the year, 25 newborns have been born drug exposed, which I think goes to Chief Sanzenbacher's desire to start the drug court. That really is becoming a problem. We're on record, or we're on a path now where we will see record numbers of babies born drug exposed. The other is, according to Director Tammy Green, she has really been doing her homework, and she has found that her local social services department is being underfunded by the state to the tune of over $900,000. And she's working with the state to correct that. I believe she will, but it will take a little time. So it's just another example to me of how the state, as we've heard the schools say, the state mandates things, but they don't want to pay for them, and I think we really need to concentrate on it in future years. That's my report.
Thank you, sir. Any other board liaison reports? All right. This is an opportunity the board sets aside for citizen comments on any issue, anything at all. Would anyone like to come share their thoughts? Anyone? All right, seeing none, no Board of Supervisors comments.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make some comments regarding the people that we've heard speak today. This is the first time I've gone through this budget process, as is Supervisor Slaughter, I believe. First of all, I want to thank the administrator for laying out a good process in which she sought for the input of county employees. So I think I applaud her for that. My concerns are that we're dealing with a one-year budget, not a multi-year budget. Currently, we have about $156 million in debt. If we do nothing, that debt will drop by about $54 million. But with the expected new expenses of a new high school, a new elementary school, renovations to 2 other schools, we have a potential new debt of approximately $159 million. To pay for that additional debt, even though there'd be a $54 million drop, would cost, and the current real estate taxes, something in the neighborhood of 39 to 44 cents. So when we go through this process next year, I would like to encourage this board and the school board to get together and look at a long-term need, so you can find out what needs needed this year, what is needed next year, and perhaps that would be a more profitable situation than to face the first year without seeing what additional years are going to be. Second comment is that there were a lot of requests for additional monies, but those requests are coming from people from the private sector that are having to pay taxes. Public school employees pay taxes, public servants pay taxes. I've been both a teacher and a government employee, so I've been in that situation as well. But I think we have to recognize that if you ask for additional increases going into the schools, it's going to come from citizens in the county. Unless their revenue increases, it's a net negative to them. So I'd ask rhetorically for those items that are really crucial, whether those in the public school systems would actually take a cut. I'm not saying you'd want to, but if it's really, really crucial, would you say, fine, I'll give up $1,000 of my salary to do something? There's limited dollars. I think we can work together to do this, but I just want to lay out some thoughts for this year and for next year, so that perhaps next year we can lay out a broader budget picture, which might then give everyone requesting money an idea that if it's not coming this year, it can come next year, or say, this is not reasonable for the next 5 years. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just take a moment to mention that about a month or so ago, I was contacted by a young lady who's a freshman at Jameswood High School. Her first name is Katie. Asked me to join her in a trip to the oncology ward at Winchester Medical Center. She's participating in a program where she has crocheted hats and made up St. Patrick's Day goodie bags to distribute to both men and women patients in the oncology ward at Winchester Hospital. And I just wanted to give her a shout out, because it's just typical of the efforts and the volunteer activities of students in the county. And my hat's off to her and other students involved in similar projects.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, yes. As a Board of Supervisors member and a taxpayer, also on a fixed income, sometimes I think when I look out at the group, maybe I'm looked at as something different than that. As a Board of Supervisors member, I am who I am, but I am a resident of Frederick County and a taxpayer. So when I listen to your concerns, I try to listen to it from that point of view. And I think that tonight we heard some very good points of view, both sides, and I appreciate that. But for all the board members that are here, we're county residents, and we're county taxpayers. And we're a part of we're not up here disseminating ourselves away from you. We are a part of you. And hopefully we make the right decisions for you personally and for the county. And that's the best we can do. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I had one other additional comment I wanted to make, and that was that I'm new on the Board of Supervisors, and I tried to reach out to the school employees to ask them the opportunity to get together and talk with them. And as you may or may not know, if three of us get together, it requires a public forum, and it's an open public meeting. But if only two of us are there, then you can have a private meeting so you can have school employees only ask questions. I was seeking dialogue with the school employees, offering myself to say, I want to hear your concerns in much more depth than was heard today, to have it back and forth. Unfortunately, the person to whom I spoke decided that they wanted to have more diversity, and so they turned me down. I find that unfortunate. Next year, if we go through this process, I'd like to have the opportunity to have a two-way dialogue, more than just a 2 or 3 minute conversation, to really get into some depths. I've had one conversation, for example, with Dr. Lamanna. He's given me some thoughts that I appreciate. I can work together with him. But I'd like to have the opportunity to speak to school employees so that we can have a two-way conversation, not just a 2-minute, one-way conversation here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? I want to thank you all again for coming out and sharing your thoughts with us this evening. This is tough stuff. It really is important that we know what you're thinking and what's on your minds, and we thank you again for making the extra effort to be with us this evening. Anyone else have other comments? Supervisor Fisher.
Mr. Chairman, I want to make one comment, and it relates to schools. I've attended some meetings, people have asked about certain things with the school system, and my question is, have you contacted a school administrator? Have you contacted a principal? Have you gone and visited with the school? Have you sat there? I highly recommend you do that. Life is different now. I've said all I'm going to say. So, Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion for us to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
We'll stand adjourned. Thank you all.
I was going to vote against it.